this is Danai, and in today's video I would like to talk about a piece that is actually written for piano four hands, so for piano duo, and it is a very famous piece for this instrumentation. It is Schubert's Fantasy in F minor. I think if you are a pianist or if you've ever played a piece for piano four hands, probably you know this piece. It is very common, and it is also something that you learn quite early on if you're interested in piano duo repertoire, because the beginning of it, at least, is technically not that difficult. Musically, I believe it is very difficult, one of the hardest pieces, but technically the beginning is not so difficult. Later on, it also gets more challenging technically, but the beginning, you can play it quite early on into your piano learning journey. So if you're interested in listening to my thoughts about the beginning of Schubert's Fantasy, something that probably many of you have played or will play, then keep on watching. First of all, let's talk about the famous notes in the beginning. Now, this can be played in so many ways. First of all, I just want to generally say that what I prefer is a tempo that is kind of flowing and a little more fluent, because I find that very often this piece is played in a very slow way, and then it is very likely that it's going to stagnate and not move forward, and that really interrupts the musical flow. So I personally prefer a tempo that is a little more on the flowing side. Also, a very interesting thing to keep in mind is that the tempo that is written on top of that movement is allegro molto moderato. Allegro, which is actually a fast tempo, and this beginning of the movement doesn't feel fast at all, but it is written in eighth notes. So when you have in eighth notes, if you think about that in allegro, then you come to this kind of calm tempo, but still flowing. Now, talking about the fingering of this beginning, for a very long time, I played 3, 2, 1, 2. So basically 3, 2, 1, and then 2 for the grace note. Now I have actually decided to change that and to play everything with my second finger. So that is a big difference now, and as you can see in the video, I'm playing everything with my second finger. I find that this gives me a little more control, to be honest, and also gives me the chance to adapt very quickly when I play it on different pianos. So I like to just play the second finger and really stay in that key, stay within the C. Don't really lift it too high, and then kind of feel where that pressure point is, and only lift it until the pressure point and then press it again for the repetitions, and then for the grace note that then ultimately leads to the F. It goes without saying that these notes ideally should have no accent whatsoever. Of course, this is really not that easy, and also depending on the piano that you have. On my practice piano here, it is kind of hard for me to achieve that. However, when I play on a concert grand, it is much easier because it is much easier to control. I just quickly want to touch on the colors. The colors in this piece, the tone colors, the harmonic colors, are so incredibly important. Sometimes we're just playing an F with minor, and then sometimes we're playing an F with major. Sometimes there are just little notes that change within the harmony and that then make the melody sound so profoundly different. So really focus on the colors. When talking about the beginning, I find that it starts obviously already in quite a dark color. It starts with a heavy heart. But Then when we get to the B, it gets even darker. So really feel that heavy heart that is happening in this piece, and the dark tone color. It's something that you can play around with when you practice, and I've played this piece quite often with my sister, and we have played around with it a lot and have really tried out different things, different effects, going louder, going more silent in certain points of the piece, really changing the colors of the harmonies. And this is so important. This is really what makes this piece what it is and makes it so magical when you listen to it in the end. Another thing I want to touch on is the use of rubato. This is another thing that is so delicate with Schubert in general, actually, but especially in this piece. And for example, the first thing where I feel that a real rubato can be helpful is the transition into the passage where I play the theme with both hands. Now, again, I'm really just talking about slight rubatos, something very delicate, something that is not obvious at all, but that really makes the difference if you compare it to just playing it metronomically. Another thing that I want to touch on that concerns that beginning figure is to try to imagine it slower in your head than what you're playing. Because, at least for me, I can get stress with this repetition and worry that I'm not going to play it. So this is why in my head, I kind of slow it down and I imagine some extra time. Of course, I don't actually play it like that, but I imagine some extra time in order to make sure that I'm taking the time that I need to play all those notes and to place them. I also want to touch on these things which we call hairpins, little crescendi and little diminuendi, which aren't actually crescendi and diminuendi, but they're more like indications of where the phrase goes. Does it go up? Does it go down? It can be also something that you can translate into tempo, into speed. So a little bit of a ritardando when it actually says a diminuendo, or a little bit of an acceleration when it says crescendo. So when you see how Schubert actually writes these hairpins, it is very interesting because very often it is just a slight pull towards a point in the phrase and then letting go. For example, just in this bar, there is a hairpin going here, letting it go. Little hairpins like that also have a huge musical impact on the interpretation. truth is, in this piece, I could really go so deep and I have so many details and thoughts to share. There is something I could basically say about every bar, I feel like, more or less. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but I can really talk about every bar in detail because I have so many thoughts that have gone into them. So my question to you is whether you're interested in a more in-depth video about this piece. I guess if I were to make it, it would be a very long video if I would really get into every passage. I could also ask my sister to join me and we could show you some things together, playing it for hands. Let me know if you're interested. I'm not sure right now how valuable or how interesting this would be to you. So let me know in the comments down below if this is of interest and I will make that video if you like. I hope that you enjoyed this first look into the Schubert F minor fantasy. I have gotten a few comments that have asked me to talk about this piece. So this is why I wanted to do this very overall look on it first and just talk about the beginning and some general thoughts. So let me know if you want more of that. And please like my video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed it. That would help me a lot. And I will see you again in my next video next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.